Hey guys, my name is Rome, and this is Bass Leader Plus. You know what I absolutely love about summertime fishing? Jigs. Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode here on BLP. It is my goal to help you become better anglers and catch more bass. If you're not already following this channel, if you don't care, please subscribe to the channel. Also, like this video, hit that notification bell so that you can be updated every time I post a new video. Today we're talking about jigs. I absolutely love jigs. I love jigs for many reasons, but one of the main reasons I love a jig is because they flat out catch fish. Not only do they catch fish, but they catch big fish. Regardless if I'm fishing in a local tournament or if I'm just out fishing for fun, I always want to make sure that I have a jig tied onto my pole to ensure that I catch that big one when I'm out there searching for it. You know, there's so many different types of jigs out there. We have swim jigs, we have flipping jigs, we have football jigs, we have finesse jigs, we have casting jigs, and there's probably some other ones that I'm forgetting today. There's just so many different jigs out there that you can be throwing for whatever circumstance or whatever conditions you are fishing in. I wanted to talk today about some of those. You know, I do have 3 of those on the boat with me today. A couple of those I don't have, but I will post them in a different video later. And for everything that I do show you today, I will link in the description so that you can go find those for yourself if you're interested in those. I wanted to start off this video today by talking to you about the swim jig. This is the swim jig. You see that head there? So a swim jig is a little bit different from all of the other jigs. It does exactly what it says it does in its name. You cast this thing out and you just kind of swim it back to you. Now, rule of thumb that I always try to remember when I am fishing a jig, a swim jig that is the 1,000 counts. So you want that jig to stay in that area, that depth that you want that jig in. So for the 1/2 ounce swim jig, I like to always cast it out and then I'll start counting. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. And that lets me know exactly how deep my jig is going. For every 1 1,000 that we count is about a foot in the water. So that's a good thing to remember whenever you're casting out a swim jig. Once again, you just throw this thing out there and you just cast it back. If you cast it at a medium retrieval speed, then it's probably going to stay around that depth that you counted off when you threw that lure into the water. Next we have a flipping jig. Now, the flipping jig is my favorite jig. It has like an arc style head to it. This is my absolute favorite jig for many reasons because it does a bunch of different things. I can take this flipping jig and I can pitch it into trees. I can pitch it into some brush. I can throw it into rock piles, and it doesn't really get hung up too bad as long as I keep that weed guard on there. And we're going to talk about that weed guard here in just a few minutes because there's something that I do to that weed guard that's very important. But I absolutely love a 1/2 ounce blue and black flipping jig for muddy, dirty water with less than 2 foot of visibility. You know, if you got more than 2 or 3 feet of visibility, then obviously you can go with your green pumpkin colors. It's a rule of thumb is your darker colors, your black and blues, actually I have one here, same thing, flipping jig, your red and blacks. You're going to throw these, your peanut butter and jellies. You're going to throw these kinds of baits when it's a little bit darker. The water's murky, it's muddier, because it puts off a different kind of shadow so that these bass can still find it. But in your clearer waters, I don't have a green pumpkin on me today in this style, but you're going to throw it in your more clear waters. You want that bait to look more natural when you're casting it out there and trying to catch those bass. So I absolutely love the flipping jig, pitching it into trees, pitching it into cover. You can even drag this bait along the bottom and different things. So this would have to be my favorite one. Finally, the one I'm going to talk about today is the football jig. Football jig has its name because, well, it looks like a football there at the top. A football jig is simply cast it out as far as you can get it and just simply drag it across the bottom. You're wanting to drag a football jig through mud. You're wanting to drag it through on the hard bottoms. It makes a lot of noise so that these bass are attracted to it, and that's what that kind of jig is for. All right, something I absolutely love to do to my jigs, something I want to help you with today. Maybe you'll like this idea, maybe you don't. Hey, whatever works for you, whatever catches you more bass, go with it. For me, this has definitely helped me catch more bass. This weed guard is very important that's on these jigs. However, I have found that sometimes this weed guard can be too long. And when this weed guard is too long, I get less of a hookup ratio. And I've lost some big bass because of that weed guard. So this is what I like to do to my weed guard to ensure that I get a better hookup ratio and I catch more bass. I'm going to take that weed guard and I'm going to lay my scissors right along the line of my hook, just like this. And then I'm just going to cut that back. I'm going to cut that back just like that. So now what we've done is we've trimmed all that excess off from that that bush guard and that weed guard. And now we're going to be able to get a better hookup ratio when we're trying to set the hook on that bass. All right, finally. Now this could be the absolute most important thing that you do to your jig. You got to add a trailer. Trailers absolutely help you catch so many more fish. Well, what is a trailer? Well, a trailer is something that you attach to your jig around the hook that helps, just puts off a little more action, kind of draws those bass in a little bit more, makes it look a little bit more realistic than it would without that trailer on there. Two of my absolute favorite trailers to use on any style jig that I'm throwing is the Bandito Bug and the Crack and Crawl. Both of these have these little appendages here, as you can see as I move them. They begin to flutter, and they just move water, and they catch those fish's attention whenever they're swimming by. I'm going to show you how to put these on there. If you're putting this Bandito Bug on, it's pretty straightforward. You just pinch your weed guard back. You're going to take this Bandito Bug, run it right through the top. You're going to run it about 3/4 of the way down, and then you're going to pull this thing out, and you're going to pinch it all the way to the top. Now, mine's not as straight as it should be, but you want that to be as straight as possible. And then you're ready to fish this jig with this Bandito Bug on this jig. Now, for the Crack and Crawl. So, with this Crack and Crawl, typically it's about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch too big for a 1/2 ounce jig, in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bite the tip of this Crack and Crawl off before I put it on my jig. So now that we've done that, we bit the top of this off, we're just going to do it the same exact way as we did the previous one. We're going to thread that on there 3/4 of the way, get our weed guard out of the way, push it all the way to the top, and there we have it. That's the Crack and Crawl. That's the Crack and Crawl on the jig. It's going to help you catch so many more fish. Now, this is a green pumpkin Crack and Crawl that I put on this black and blue just for video demonstration. Typically, you're going to want to match the closest that you can to your jig. So, that's why I put the Bandito Bug, the green pumpkin Bandito Bug on the green pumpkin football jig. But also, if I was going to do a red and black or a black and blue or even a chartreuse and a white, I want to try to match that the best that I can to make it look as natural as I possibly can. Hey guys, thanks again so much for tuning into this video on jigs here on Bass Leader Plus. It is my goal to help you become better bass anglers. So please like this video, hit the notification bell, and subscribe if you've not already. And we'll see you next time.